Hey everyone, Reverend Sarah from St. Paul's United in Paris. I hope you're doing really great. It's been a couple of weeks since we did a check-in, and it's nice to be back with you again. And we jumped right back into it this past Sunday as we did one of our last Sundays of our Alphabet of Faith for this part of the year, because in a couple of weeks' time, it's going to be Advent. Can you believe it? On Sunday, November the 27th, we are going to be celebrating the first Sunday of Advent, and we are going to be switching gears from Alphabet of Faith to the Sanctified Art group, the resource that we've been using the last couple of years. It's got all that beautiful artwork and words for worship. So please come on out. We've got lots of really great stuff happening in church on Sunday mornings. Outside of Sunday morning, just a quick reminder, we do have a turkey supper happening. We decided to go with takeout because we're finding that people are still in a little bit of an uncomfortable place around whether they want to come in and sit down or have a takeout. So we've gone full takeout for now as we assess what's happening with the world. So make sure that you contact the office to get your tickets if you haven't already done so. I know they're going pretty quick, so get in there before they're gone. It's going to be delicious. It always is. As I talked about, we are jumping into a new resource in a couple of weeks. So as we wrap up our last couple of letters for Alphabet of Faith for this part of the journey, we're going to get back to it in January. I want to talk a bit about our theme from this past Sunday, and that was the letter J for justice. And as I talked about in my sermon and in our story time for all ages, that word justice can be a pretty loaded word, and everybody kind of has their own image, their own idea and understanding of what justice is. And too often, justice is equated with some kind of punishment or even revenge, which is absolutely not the way we should be thinking about justice. It's absolutely not the way God thinks about justice and calls us to be people of justice or do social justice. So what is it? What is this word that we're looking at? And as I talked about in my sermon and a little bit in story time for all ages, another word for justice that we often use is fair. What is fair? What is right? And one of the things that was told to me a number of years ago by a rabbi that has stuck with me is the idea of fairness being everybody gets what they need. So not everybody gets the same thing, because that's often what we think of as fair, but everybody gets what they need is actually fairness. And he used the example for me that has stuck with me of an emergency room with people, somebody's got chest pain, somebody else has a broken arm or a leg, somebody else has a cut, and everybody gets a Band-Aid and some Advil. Well, we know just right off the bat that is not fair, because not everybody is going to be treated for what they need and what's going on with them by a Band-Aid and some Advil. It will help maybe one person out of that scenario, but not everybody. What is fair would be everybody being seen by a medical professional and assessed for the injury or medical ailment that is happening for them and getting what they need to treat that specific ailment or injury. So when we think about justice, the thing we want to talk about first and foremost is that it is a relational term. And I actually really liked when I was looking around doing some research for my sermon, I came across the World Vision's talk about social justice, because there is an International Social Justice Day in February. It's February 20th. And they talk about justice being first and foremost a relational term. And they were talking exactly the same as Sarah Jewell was in this passage about how people are called to live in right relationship with God, with one another, and with God's creation. And I think this term and this idea has come first and foremost to our minds over the last few years as we've done some really difficult but very important work towards truth and reconciliation with our Native communities here in Canada. And they go on to say, from a scriptural point of view, justice means loving our neighbor as we love ourselves, and it's rooted in the character and nature of God. As God is just and loving, so we too are called to do justice and live in love. We need to start a space of common ground around who God calls us to be. And I think that's so important. We, as I said, too often get wrapped up in this idea of justice as some kind of punishment or revenge, when what justice is ensuring that everybody gets what they need. And I talked in my story time for all ages about if we forget how to do justice, if things are feeling a little bit too overwhelming and we're not sure, then we go back to the basics, the tenet of faith that we learned as a child: do to others as you would have them do to you. So treat other people how you want to be treated is a great way to look at what's fair, what is just, and what justice is. Those are just some thoughts that I have this week. Would love to hear some thoughts from you. If you want to get some conversation going in our comment section below, that would be great. And as always, my friends, wherever you are this day, I hope that you're safe, I hope that you're well, and I hope that we get to see each other very soon. We'll talk to you later.